Welcome to the Review Tuesday. My name is Ruben and this is my review for Andor, the first 4 episodes of Disney Plus's new Star Wars series. Let's get into it. Andor, the new intergalactic political thriller tracing the origin of Diego Luna's Rogue's One character, Cassian Andor. In an era filled with danger, deception, and intrigue, Cassian will embark on the path that is destined to turn him into a rebel hero. So we've seen 4 episodes of the first season of Andor. This is going to be non-spoiler, obviously. 3 episodes drop on Wednesday, so look out for those. I'm sure you're well aware of it. This is going to have 2 seasons, the first season being 12 episodes, and the next probably along the same lines. They're already getting stuck into season 2, but if you're hankering for more episodes once you get to like the 12th and you're like, when's the next one? You're going to have to wait a while. So far as what the news outlets are saying is that we're not going to get it probably till late 2024. I'm pleased to say the story is really character driven and location based. Physical sets mean there is a real tangible feeling to everything we are shown. Obviously there are green screen and CG moments, but most of what you see has a physical form. The first 4 episodes are largely on getting our character Cassian, from the roguelike character that he is, explaining why he is the way he is, to get him to be in contact with the rebels. And so we're going from seeing him being the roguelike character to sort of becoming a rebel, but it's kind of all before, which is why it's the prequel to Rogue One. Something the series has done well for me so far was establishing the working class people and showing the separation in classes, especially when it comes to the Empire's security forces. This is mostly where the first 3 episodes stories take place, a clashing of heads. We are showing those in charge think of the working class. There are a number of actors that showcase this really well, some actors that I love to hate, or characters rather, that I love to hate, that you will probably be on board with. Yeah, that's a really good bad guy. I already dislike him straight away. For me, there were those kind of standing out moments going, oh, you really are creating this background character, but also is coming to the forefront. And also this bad guy kind of has a background story. What? A bad guy has a background story? Character growth? Are you crazy? It's all kind of in there. When it comes to acting and delivering the dialogue so that you forget you are watching what you are immersed in the story, no one does a bad job here, but some do an exceptional job. Diego Luna, our protagonist, plays someone who is just looking for a way out. He's searching for something more but doesn't know what this is because of his experiences and what life has taught him thus far. He trusts next to no one. He's a bit of a scallywag, a ruffian, a true Star Wars character. There's definitely a direct correlation to be had between Han Solo and Luke Skywalker if you kind of smush them together. This character that you smush together on this planet, this is kind of what you are starting to get, but there's so much more to the depths of what or who Cassian is. There's an origin story here that I wasn't expecting, and that came out of nowhere, and I really appreciated that. So when you get to it, I think you'll appreciate the weight of the origin story that they give to this story, and that's kind of why it works really well. Secondly, I just wanted to mention Fiona Shaw. I'm a massive fan of this actress's acting presence, and this sometimes I mention an actor who has acting presence, and there's a few that stand out for me. You kind of know them when they step onto screen. There's an aura around them. They don't need to say much, but their aura around them is created, whether it's through filmmaking techniques, editing, score, sound, all kind of elevate the character that they want, but they still need to have a sort of presence to them. Fiona Shaw, even though she isn't on screen that much, what we do get of her leaves you wanting more. I think that's a good way to leave you, but I still wanted more of her character. I don't want to say who it is, I loved her on screen. Now when it comes to the part in the review, I want to say, how Star Wars is it? I've seen a few complain that this series doesn't have many Easter eggs and that it doesn't really kind of delve further into the Star Wars universe, connecting other projects. Firstly, I'd like to say, what? Huh? What a strange world we live in when critics and film reviewers are a place where one thing has to connect to another in an existing franchise. But also they'd be very wrong. There are locations we travel to, name drops, places, things that are recognizable as connections to the other wider Star Wars universe, but also it has the audacity, I guess, to do its own thing. Feels like it is connected to the other Star Wars universes. You'll hear names, you'll see places, but for the most part, it is this story that leads up to Rogue One, but it's also doing its own thing. It's not trying to be a stepping stone or launch pad for the next Mandalorian spin-off series. It just concentrates on delivering the story to us, and it's wonderful to watch. in the darkest way. And talking about the darkest way, the next bit I want to talk about is dark Star Wars. There is a real grit to this series, and the consequences are there is a real grit to this series, and the consequences our characters encounter have lasting effects. There's no get out of jail free card for some of the characters. When you get shot, you have to deal with that as a character. If you're a character on the show for the rest of the episode, unless you've been shot dead, then there's no kind of Jedi get out of jail free card where someone comes and revives you or saves you. No, this is full on. You're going to be rooting for characters, and then they might take some of those characters out, and also you've got to be willing for the story to allow that to happen, so you can see this dark adventure. But it is an adventure nonetheless, because we are on a planet that is part of the Star Wars universe, but at the same time it feels like a very real, tangible planet because of those sets being real and tangible. You do feel very much like a fly in the wall of Cassian's life as you watch him trying to save someone from one moment and then swindle someone from another moment, the whole time dodging creatures and people in dark alleys. In the background, there's a couple of moments in, I think it was episode 2, where Cassian encounters two, let's say, bad people, without going into spoilers, and the lighting in that was just beautiful to behold. It was something that I wasn't expecting. Now, the color palette for the whole series is going to have that grey, grit, blue hue greyness that you always get with these sort of sci-fi when they're trying to go true gritty. But at the same time, this show just is spectacular to look at. There was moments in the series where I was going, wow, or oh, look at that shot, saying words audibly as I was watching without really realizing until my wife's going, shh, I'm watching. It's very interesting. Find a series that evokes a response, and that's always finding when you're being sucked into it, you're forgetting that you're the reviewer, in my case the reviewer or the critic, and just there for the ride because I'm so in awe of what they're showing, of how they're showing it. Okay, let's talk about the technical stuff for a bit. I would say the score and the soundtrack for the most part is excellent, between the drums and the strings and the horns that cultivate a presence and tone that really is ominous but also exciting when it needs to be, levitating the moments of the story that it needs to in the right moments. Everything in these 4 episodes that I've seen so far has been excellent. Bar one episode, at the end of episode 2, there's a moment when the score shifts to something that is so left field that it doesn't fit the moment. As Cassian is walking towards the camera and the credits are just about to roll, it changes tempo. It feels like an action sequence that's about to happen, but nothing actually happens on camera. Such a abrupt change in score. I was like, what on earth was that? I actually went back to check if I'd gotten an early access screener rather than the finished product. Apparently this is the one they're sending out to reviewers, so I was so surprised at that moment. And I have to be honest, I want to be fair when I review. Can't just say something is the best thing since sliced bread or cheese knickknacks. I don't know what cheese knickknacks is, I just made something up, but you get my drift. Gonna be honest, can't just say this is the best thing ever when there is something that's blaringly obvious that had an issue, and that so far for me was the only issue I found in this series. Now comes to the more interesting part of these 4 episodes. Had me asking this question: will it stick the landing? So how do you finish a story? It's one of the hardest things to do in a story, whether you're an author or writing a screenplay. Ending is the hardest thing. In fact, I've had many famous authors, I've heard them say this, in fact other authors, when they're giving me advice on when I'm writing, they're saying try and write your ending first, so then when you write to that moment you know where you're going. There's 2 types of writers you get. You get explorative writers who get an idea, much like Stephen King, and just run with it, and then sometimes you get weird endings, and then you get those writers that map out and plan every single moment, and I don't think I'm that writer. I'm a little bit of both. But it was interesting to me knowing that we have an end game here already in Rogue One. How do you write something that sticks the landing, that we are still invested in because we know where it's gonna end up? Now I'm excited to see what they're going to have done with it. Sometimes the journey is enough for you to be involved in and wanting to watch episode by episode, just to have a Star Wars series that does its own thing, doesn't rely on other projects, and is damn good and is more adult. It feels, it's gore, basically some sex scenes, people die, there's no get out of jail free card, and look spectacular, building those sets rather than using the screen technology. All of these are like take things I want to see. But still at the back of my mind I'm going, but how are they going to finish this so that it doesn't leave you feeling like it's just a stepping stone to the movie, but is also just its own thing contained? That is going to be the trick. That'll be the magic formula. I hope it does, because so far it looks or indicates that they could do that, because these 4 episodes been quite a ride. Can't rate it yet, but I'm loving the response from most people. I think it's had some mixed reviews, but I'm looking forward to what everybody else sees of this, because obviously people now don't really trust places like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic, because those can be inundated with people just bombarding reviews on those sites, and you don't really get an accurate depiction or knowledge of what actually is going on in those TV series or movies. So people come to people they trust. I hope if you come here now, we've garnered a few, our subscribers, our audience. I think we have got a good community going here now, where we can come and discuss to your heart's contents what you think without being mean. So when we're in the comments down below, let's chat like we actually love Star Wars, rather than trying to gate away Star Wars. Let's bring people into the fold rather than chasing them away. Let's garner something that is exciting. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. Looking forward to chatting to you in the comments below. Love our community. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.